Hi, everybody. We're back. This is Shawnee and Jen, and we are here to continue our virtual staff wellness workshop. This time, we will be talking about healthy habits. If you're following along in your workbook, this is section 2. So, welcome back to WellBeingX and session 2, healthy habits. Today, we're diving into the first letter of PERMA, health. Although it's the final letter in the PERMA acronym, health is actually the foundation of our well-being. Without the key indicators of good health, such as energy, focus, and physical stamina, it's hard to build other aspects of well-being, like positive emotions or strong relationships. That's why it's our first stop on our PERMA journey. Let's dig in. In today's session, we will cover several key areas to give you a solid foundation for enhancing your physical health. Here's what we'll explore together. First, we'll start with a health reflection round where you'll reflect on your current health behaviors, what's going well, and where you might want to make improvements. Next, we'll dive into our 4 main areas of health, which are eating, moving, sleeping, and rest and recovery. For each of these, we'll reflect on your habits, explore why they matter, and give you practical tips to support your well-being. And finally, we'll end the session by creating a rooted routine for health, a small but meaningful change you can make in one of these areas to improve your overall well-being.
One of the easiest ways to begin caring for our health is through reflection. When we pause to consider how our habits are or aren't serving us, we open the door to making meaningful changes. Health and well-being researcher Tom Rath reminds us that this isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Indeed, wherever you're at with your health today, you can take specific actions to have more energy and to live longer. And at its foundation, that's what health is really about.
Now, let's dig deeper into your reflections with some guiding questions. These will help you clarify where you're at with your health and where you might want to focus on making improvements. When it comes to your health, what's going well? Where do you notice challenges or resistance? And what are you learning from this? Take a few minutes to think about these questions and jot down your responses in your workbook. This process is all about identifying what's working and what needs a little tweaking. This quote from Sonia Lyberminski reminds us that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to caring for our health and well-being. It's not about following a single formula or adopting a universal strategy. Instead, it's about finding what works best for you, from what you eat to where you sleep to how you rest and so on. What brings you joy, energy, and balance may be very different from what works for someone else. This is why it's so important to take an individualized approach. This means experimenting with different strategies, reflecting on what feels right, and being flexible as your needs evolve.
Now that we've had a chance to reflect on our overall health, let's move on to our first focus area, eating well. What we eat directly impacts how we feel, both physically and mentally. But in today's busy world, most of us know how easy it can be to grab what's convenient rather than what's nutritious. With that in mind, let's dig in. When it comes to eating well, researcher Tom Rath highlights the ripple effect of even our smallest decisions. Eating well or eating better isn't about drastic changes or cutting out all the foods you love. It's about making small adjustments that accumulate over time. Something as simple as adding more nutrient-dense foods to your meals or being mindful of portion sizes can make a big difference.
But before we dive into the how of changing our eating habits, let's look into the why. Food is more than just fuel for our body. It can be a source of joy, comfort, or even stress. Everyone has a unique relationship with food, shaped by culture, family traditions, and personal experiences. Ask yourself, what does food mean to you? Do any of the following statements resonate? Jot down your thoughts in your workbook. What does food signify to you? Take this chance to reflect on how your relationship with food is or isn't serving your overall health. Let's take a moment to reflect on where some of your beliefs around food came from. Think about the meals you typically eat, the times that you eat them, and how they make you feel afterward. Are there any patterns that stand out to you? Where did you learn these behaviors? And why do you uphold them? Have they changed over the years? Write your reflections in your workbook. And remember, this is just an exploration. There are no right or wrong answers here, only opportunities to learn more about yourself and your habits.
As anyone who has eaten cookies or ice cream at midnight can attest, food is often not rational. Indeed, the choices we make around food can reflect much more than just what we want to eat in the moment. They can reflect our emotions, values, and connection to the culture around us. So, as we continue, let's explore how we can eat in a way that nourishes both our bodies and our values. One reason we're trying to understand the psychology and culture behind our eating is that these dictate so much of our behavior and therefore our health outcomes. Indeed, as holistic practitioner Ann Wigmore states, the food we eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. So it makes sense to become mindful of the factors that affect what we put into our bodies.
Now that we've had a chance to reflect on our eating beliefs and behaviors, it's time to get practical. Even with some added clarity about our eating habits, knowing where to start with eating behavior change can be difficult. That's why we created this toolkit, the Positive Eating Pizza, with some top ev- with some top evidence-based tips to help you tweak your eating habits in small yet significant ways. Take a few minutes now to look at the Positive Eating Pizza with each of its healthy eating examples in your workbook and circle or note down the ideas that resonate with you the most. Now, let's get a little more specific. Take a moment to think about which slice most appeals to you. Is it prioritizing protein or perhaps focusing on quality over quantity? In your workbook, write down the slice you'd like to focus on and consider how to incorporate that change into your daily routine. You don't have to commit to anything yet. At the end of the session, we'll choose one health behavior to put into a rooted routine. But to set yourself up for success, pick one eating well behavior that you'd most like to try.
Now that we've reflected on eating, let's shift gears to movement. Physical activity is essential to overall health, but it's easy to get caught up in thinking that only intense exercise counts. However, movement doesn't have to mean a trip to the gym. It can be anything from walking, dancing, stretching, or even playing with your kids. Let's take a moment to reflect together. In your workbook, write down some words or phrases that come to mind when you think about exercise. Were there activities you enjoyed as a child that got you moving? Why did you enjoy them? Let yourself enjoy this reflection. Go down memory lane and remember what it was like to play and move, not just, quote, exercise in the name of staying fit or a certain shape.
William Shakespeare once asked, "What's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." But as the wordsmith should have known better than most, words matter. And when we look under the surface, there can be significantly different associations between the words exercise and movement. The word exercise can have negative connotations, such as intense exercise, a sense of pressure or performance, and external motivators that don't come from a place of joy or self care. But movement can be more natural and flexible. Movement, in some form or another, is available to almost everyone, regardless of fitness level, age, or physical abilities. It's about taking a glass half full approach, knowing that every little bit counts and helps us feel and function better in the moment and longer term. Kelly McGonigal, a leading researcher on movement, reminds us that movement of any kind in any way is valuable, especially when the movement itself is enjoyable in the moment. What ways might you like to move in this moment? Even just adjusting your position in your seat or stretching. Check in with your body and ask what would make it feel good in this moment.
Kelly also reminds us that the greatest movement benefits we experience, such as a sense of hope for the future, a sense of meaning, and belonging, are linked with movement, not with our level of fitness. So, if well being and happiness truly are your goals, then that walk and talk club you've been considering or a gentle stretching session might be all it takes to give you the boost you're after. Let's take a practical look at how you're currently moving. In the last 24 hours, how much time did you spend being very active? For example, doing team sports, cycling, running, being moderately active like walking or yoga? What about being sedentary like sitting or watching TV? What's more, how did these activities impact your mood and energy levels? The goal here is not to judge, but to be scientists in our one person health study, to become more aware of how movement, or lack thereof, affects our feelings.
Whether you're at it, whether wherever you're at with your current movement levels, Tim Rath suggests that staying active throughout the day, not just during workout sessions, is key to staying healthy. It's not enough to do intense exercise a few times a week if we spend the rest of the day sitting. Every bit of movement counts. As we explore how to move more mindfully, keep this in mind. The small, consistent actions make the biggest difference. In fact, echoing Tim Rath, Dr. Keith Diaz has conducted research showing that even small amounts of prolonged sitting can sap your energy and harm your health. He stresses that reducing sedentary time by incorporating more movement into your day is essential for better health outcomes. So, whether taking short walks, stretching, or standing up periodically, these small moments of movement can improve your health and well-being.
Is working out, but otherwise sitting in an office chair all day, enough to keep us well? The American Heart Association sought to answer this question and unfortunately found that working out 3 times a week isn't enough if you're sedentary the rest of the time. Regular, enjoyable movement throughout the day is still essential. So rather than thinking of movement as something you only do during a workout, how can you integrate more activity into your everyday life? We'll explore some evidence based ways of doing this next. As we know, even with additional insight and research, it can be challenging to know where to start when it comes to moving more, especially if you have a busy schedule. That's where the mindful movement wheel comes in. Just like positive eating pizza helps us eat better, this tool provides simple, practical strategies to help you incorporate more movement into your day, such as interrupting periods of sitting, choosing activities that bring you joy, and focusing on consistency rather than intensity.
Now, let's apply the mindful movement wheel. In your workbook, take a few minutes to write down 1 or 2 movement strategies that you feel inspired to try. It could be something as simple as standing up every 20 minutes or walking after lunch. Once again, you don't have to commit to anything yet. At the end of this session, we'll form a rooted routine for health together. Now, let's talk about sleep. Sleep is essential for restoring our energy, regulating our mood, and improving our focus. But how many of us actually get enough sleep?
As always, let's start by taking a temperature check on our current habits. Take a few minutes to reflect on the following questions in your workbook, considering on a scale of 0, not at all, to 10, completely, how satisfied are you with your current sleeping habits? How much do you want to improve your sleeping habits? How confident are you in your ability to change your sleeping habits? Write down any insights you have and consider what might be supporting or standing in the way of a good night's sleep. While we all have our individual relationships with sleep, researchers have identified several common barriers to getting a decent night's shut eye. These include stress, anxiety, and depression, which can keep us awake at night, making it difficult to fall or stay asleep. Another barrier is electronic devices that emit blue light, which can interfere with the production of melatonin, a hormone that regulates our sleep responses. Then we have irregular sleep schedules, which can disrupt our body's natural internal clock. Other barriers include physical conditions like chronic illness or injuries, and environmental factors like light or noise pollution. Having a bedroom that's too hot or cold, or not feeling safe in our sleeping space. Consider which, if any, of these barriers resonates most with you, and what impact might it have on your ability to get a good night's rest.
So, just as we checked in with our attitudes around sleep, let's examine some societal attitudes we're surrounded by through a quick game. True or false? 95% of us need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. This one is true. As much as we like to tell ourselves we run well off 5 hours of sleep, studies repeatedly suggest the opposite. True or false? Adults need less sleep as they age. This is false. Regardless of our age, our body still needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep to function properly, especially if we keep moving joyfully. True or false? If you can't sleep, stay in bed until you can. This one is false. Sleep researchers suggest getting up and reading or doing something else so we can reset instead of getting caught in restless rumination. True or false? Sleep debt cannot always be paid off by sleeping later. This is true. Although we think we can get by with very little sleep for a week and rest on the weekend, studies have found that this isn't enough to repair the damage done to our bodies, brains, or sleep rhythms.
Straight off the back of our sleep myth busting, Tom Rath reminds us that losing just 1 hour of sleep can reduce our productivity, health, and ability to think. So while we may feel like we're functioning well on fewer hours of sleep, objectively, we're not showing up as well as we might hope. So now that we've explored the vital role sleep plays in our health and well-being, it's time to get practical about how we might support better sleeping habits. It can be difficult to know where to start when sleeping well. To help you do this, we've created the Sleep Smart Circle. Like the previous tools, it includes evidence-based strategies to enhance your sleep, such as sticking to a regular sleep schedule, creating a restful bedtime routine, limiting screen time before bed, and optimizing your bedroom environment. Take a moment to look over the Sleep Smart Circle strategies in your workbook now.
Now that you've reviewed the Sleep Smart Circle, think about which strategies resonate with you the most. Take a moment to write these down in your notebook. Once again, we'll circle back to choose a rooted routine for health at the end of this session. Next, let's talk about rest and recovery. While sleep is essential for restoring our energy, rest during the day is equally important. Many of us push ourselves to the limit, rarely permitting ourselves to rest. But rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for maintaining mental and physical well being.
Now let's dive deeper into the concept of rest. On average, how much time each day do you dedicate to rest and recovery? With this in mind, what are some of your favorite and most effective forms of rest and recovery? This could be anything from taking short breaks during work to engaging in activities that help you unwind. Finally, what, if anything, makes it challenging for you to prioritize time for rest and recovery? What makes it difficult for you to slow down and recharge? Take a few minutes to write down your reflections in your workbook. Take your time. Maybe even take this opportunity to take a few deep breaths or stretch. What form of rest or recovery does your body need right now? In this modern world, we talk about needing to rest all the time, but what actually counts as rest? As Emily and Amelia Nagoski point out in their work on stress and recovery, rest is quite simply when you stop using a part of you that's used up, worn out, or inflamed so that it has a chance to renew itself. It's about slowing down and stopping to be able to start again. It's not about multitasking or pushing through indefinitely. It's certainly not about being lazy or unproductive. It's about taking care of yourself so you can show up as your best self when it matters.
Because rest and recovery are often charged in complex topics, let's take a moment to play, once again, the game of true or false about common rest and recovery beliefs. So, true or false? Stress and stressors are the same. This is false. Stressors are external or internal triggers that cause stress, and stress is our response to these triggers. True or false? It's not what happens to you, but what you believe about it. This is also true to an extent. One person's traumatic event, missing a flight, could be someone else's funny dinner time anecdote. Each of us comes to the world with different personal narratives, coping strategies, and levels of resilience. So, with the exception of truly horrific events, ongoing stress, or even trauma, is often less about what happens to us and more about how we reflect on and react to it. True or false? We each have different ways of recovering. This is true. While we have similar bodies and brains, each of us has a unique nervous system and mind that reacts in diverse ways to our environment. That's why reflecting on our experience is so important when caring for our health and well being. Next one, true or false? A traumatic event must include things like a natural disaster, crime, accident, etc. This is false. As we just covered, stress is a subjective experience in terms of what triggers it and how we experience it in the body. Trauma develops in the wake of our inability to comprehend or cope with an event. The nature of that event, whether it's being caught in a storm as an adult or teased at school as a kid, is less important than our ability to process and recover from it. These statements help us recognize that while stress is inevitable, how we handle it is what truly impacts our well being. How does this sit with you? Are there events in your life or in other people's lives that you've judged as being worthy or unworthy of stress? How might you reframe some of those beliefs, considering that none of us has the same set of coping strategies or supports as someone else?
While we've just discussed the unique ways we perceive and experience stress, we'll also discuss some stress reactions that are inherent to all humans. When faced with a stressor event, our body and brain react to stress through different types of stress responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. In the flight response, the body releases adrenaline to prepare for confrontation. In this response, you might feel angry, aggressive, or irritable, with clenched fists, tightened muscles, and a racing heart. In the flight response, your body releases similar hormones and prepares itself to escape or run away. You may feel anxious or restless with a strong urge to run away, which can look like pacing or fidgeting. In the freeze response, the body becomes immobile, heart rate drops, and you might feel disconnected. You might feel numb, stuck, or unable to move or respond. Many of us experience this in the face of conflict or aggression, going blank and only coming up with responses once our nervous system has calmed down. In the fawn response, fawn means to attempt to be on someone's good side or to submit to them and their wishes. The mind may disassociate from the body to prioritize others' needs. You might feel an urgency to meet others' needs, quickly agreeing to things or trying to make others happy to stay safe. Our past experiences and the influences the we move into. Researchers say one or two stressors than others. Which one feels most similar to you? Take a moment to reflect in your workbook.
Stress and well being researchers Emily and Amelia Nagoski emphasize the importance of addressing both the stressors in our lives and the stress itself. Even if you've solved the external problem, your body may still hold on to stress. This is why engaging in activities that help you complete the stress cycle, whether that's through movement, relaxation, or connection with others, is so important. What activities help you release stress and feel more relaxed? Write down your thoughts in your workbook. If you're unsure how to rest and recover more, don't worry. We're here to help. While it can be difficult to know where to start when it comes to rest and recovery, to incorporate more rest and recovery into your daily life, we've created the Rest and Recovery Wheel. This tool includes simple strategies for de stressing and recharging, such as box breathing for relaxation, spending time in nature, laughing or engaging in playful activities, or engaging in gentle movements like stretching. Even small moments of rest can help you recover from stress and prevent burnout.
Now it's time to put the rest and recovery wheel into action. In your workbook, write down one strategy from the wheel you'd like most to try. It could be as simple as taking a few deep breaths during stressful moments or setting aside time to walk outside each day. Now that we've explored the 4 pillars of health: eating, moving, sleeping, and resting, it's time to create your routine for health. Remember, the goal isn't to overhaul your entire routine. is to focus on one small habit that feels doable.
Take a moment to think about which area of health you'd like to focus on. Is it eating, moving, sleeping, or resting? Why do you want to focus on this area? Write down your thoughts in your workbook. As you think about your rooted routine for health, consider what will motivate you, how you can make it as easy as possible, and what prompt will remind you to follow through.
Let's take a moment to review your rooted routines. Last week, we talked about how rooted routines consist of 4 key components that make it easier to build small, manageable habits. Grounded beginnings. What is an existing action or routine in your day that would naturally allow you to add a new well-being habit? Think about behaviors you already do regularly. How can this moment nurture the start of your new habit? Nurturing action. What is the small, manageable action you can take right now to help foster your well-being? Make sure this is an action so easy you can do it even on busy days. How will you take your first step toward growth? Thriving moment. Once you've completed your action, how can you celebrate your success, no matter how small? What will you do to acknowledge your growth? This moment of recognition will help reinforce your habit. Nourishing reflection. What do you expect to feel after completing your action? How do you anticipate this practice supporting your well-being? Think about any changes you hope to see in your thoughts, mood, or habits. How might this habit help you in the future?
Now it's your turn to create your rooted health routine using the framework in your workbook. Use the rooted routine tool below to guide you in developing a small, sustainable habit that supports your well being. Start by identifying a grounded beginning, an existing action or routine in your day that naturally supports adding a new well being habit. Then choose a nurturing action, a small, manageable step you can take right now, even on busy days. Once you complete your action, take a thriving moment to acknowledge your success and reinforce your new habit. Finally, engage in a nourishing reflection. Consider how this habit supports your well being and what positive changes you anticipate over time. To decide on your nourishing action, reflect on different areas of health: eating, moving, sleeping, or resting and recovering. Which area feels most important to focus on this week and why? Would you like to focus on nutrition, such as adding a serving of protein to each meal? Or movement, like standing up and stretching every 20 minutes? You can also create your own habit based on what resonates with you. Feel free to experiment. Just make sure it's small and doable each day. Remember, small, steady actions are the key to lasting well being changes. Rooted routines grow strongest when they start with simple, manageable steps. The easier a habit is to do, the more naturally it becomes a part of your daily life. So don't be afraid to start small. Consistent, nurturing actions will build momentum and lead to meaningful, lasting change.
Let's take a moment to recap what we've covered today. We started by reflecting on your current health behaviors. We explored 4 key areas of health: eating, moving, sleeping, and resting, and learned practical tips and tools for improving each of these areas. Finally, you created a rooted routine for health to help you make small but meaningful change in one area of your health. As you think about your takeaways from today's session, consider the following. What's one surprising insight you had about your health? What was the most useful piece of information you learned today? Who might you share that information with? Take a moment to jot down your reflections in your workbook. Reflecting on what you've learned today will help solidify these ideas and prepare you for the next steps in your well-being journey. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.